Okay, good afternoon, everybody. And it's Brian Boyd again, and I'm here on Saturday afternoon with three special guests today from Rotary. This, of course, is the Rotary session that we have at the last Saturday of every month. And I'm joined today initially by Mr. Jeff Dandy from the Rotary Club of Furness Peninsula. How are you doing, Jeff? Are you happy?
Nice to see you, Brian. Yes, very happy after a busy day at work today.
Good man, keeping us all. Yeah.
Nice to be with you.
Right, brilliant. Jeff's going to be talking to us along with Mike Lovell and Ron Duxbury about Rotary and their sports section, just what they get up to. And you might be surprised to know that it isn't quite as vigorous as it has been for them in the past. I'll be talking to them very shortly. Stay with me and we'll just start the show off with a bit of this. All right, back again with particularly Jeff Dandy at the moment. Jeff, you said you're very happy and everything's going fine, but you are very much involved in the sports element of the Rotary Club of Furness Peninsula. Tell us, Jeff, when it says sports, I mean, you're not going out playing five-a-side and rugby sevens, surely, but what sort of sports are you involved in, Jeff?
It's all about sort of being able to offer sports that most of the club could be involved in. In other words, maybe crown green bowling, 10-pin bowling, all sorts of different sports like that. We even do what we call grey games, which are like pub games. The whole feature of it is to make it accessible to everybody, whatever their skills are or whatever, and however fit they are. It's an evolving.
Good. So it's not, like horse racing or wrestling. It's a lot less strenuous. It sounds like the sort of thing I might be getting involved in. But when you say those kind of grey games, what does grey games mean, Jeff?
I think it's referring to grey hair.
Oh.
But I think basically it's where we maybe play against another Rotary club, and we join them in a pub or a place that can offer us some facilities for perhaps a little bit of putting, sort of crazy golf or table tennis, different aspects, dominoes, all things that aren't particularly strenuous, apart from obviously the table tennis, which can be competitive at times, depending on who's.
I'm sure it does. Well, I'm pleased to know that you haven't put any of your members under strain. We'll come back to Jeff in a minute. We're going to get some more information on how often this all happens and a little bit more in depth from Jeff from the Rotary Club of Furness Peninsula. We'll have some music, I think. What about some of this? Great piece of music. I love it. So Jeff Dandy is with us, and he's talking about sports. We know what he does, and we know that they do it with the local clubs. Of course, there are 3 clubs in the local area, and Mike Lovell and Ron Duxbury represent the other 2. But Jeff's here at the moment with the information we want from the Rotary Club of Furness Peninsula. You mentioned earlier, Jeff, that you do these kind of things with local clubs. Does it get scoped out into the wider arena with these kind of games?
Yes.
Tell us about that. What happens there?
It involves clubs from further afield.
Uh-huh.
You're talking about Ulverston, you could be talking about Windermere, further afield than that even. And sometimes if we're playing other clubs at, say, Bowls, Crown Green Bowls, perhaps it's one of those occasions where you maybe don't want to win in case the next fixture's in Carlisle. But we do enjoy it. And what I've found with a lot of the sports that we do, and ours is a mixed club, and I'm not by any means sort of being sexist about that, but it means that with bowls particularly, the ladies and we can all join in and have a good session, a good game, and all abilities. But the other thing that can happen with sports in Rotary is that it's a great opportunity to invite a non-Rotarian along to informally be with us and enjoy the evening with us, hopefully, and get to know us. And then perhaps they may want to then come on and take a look at us a bit more in depth.
Good.
But it's good.
Yeah, you've took a bit of wind out of my sails there, Jeff, because my next question was about whether or not it's a closed activity, but you've obviously told me that isn't the case. When you say people can act as spectators, is that something that you do regularly? I mean, how often do you do these events? Is it once a week, once a month, twice a year, or what?
Probably more like once every month or a couple of months that this happens. But it's a nice little interlude to what we do and to the service side of what we do. Obviously, is important to us, but equally, it's an opportunity being in Rotary. You get fellowship, friendship, camaraderie, and when we go off and play these sports and games, you almost get to know people a little bit better than sitting with them in a meeting. And it's a great opportunity to let people see, perhaps. I mean, when we go to bowling, to bowling clubs or whatever, there's always other people there, and we very often get them saying, "Oh, who are you, and what are you doing here?" And this sort of thing, and it just increases our profile, with the public.
And I think that's something that, we've had these conversations before, that the public perhaps isn't quite sure about Rotary and what it is. And I think activities like that enable you to, take advantage of opportunities by saying, we're just there for the benefit of the community and for doing, good work in the community. I'll come back to Jeff in a second. And as it's Cando FM, great music, local news, you're going to get some great music right now. Right, we know a little bit more about sports from our guest this afternoon even. Jeff Dandy is from the Rotary Club of Furness Peninsula. Jeff, you've told us what you do, you've told us how you do it, you've told us who you do it with and how often. And just give me some of your final thoughts on Rotary and Rotary sports in general.
Well, I feel that the Rotary movement in itself is very, very keen to welcome new members into our midst. And these activities, along with everything else that we do, in other words, it opens us up more and makes us more than just a narrowed fundraising mixture of people of all backgrounds opens us up a lot more to showing that we're part of the community and enjoy doing community things. And one of those community things is enjoying sports, which is quite important to a lot of people these days.
Yeah, and I think you're dead right. And that thing about the community and ordinary people, I mean, people sometimes think that Rotary is a closed shop. It isn't. They think that perhaps it's religious. It isn't. It's just a great community of people doing great stuff in the community, quite often without recognition. But it's like any organisation that's quality, you do the right thing when nobody's looking. Jeff, it's been great talking to you today. Thanks very much for your time. It's always good.
I'll enjoy the AC/DC track.
I'll dig one out for you, Ron. Thanks very much, and we'll speak to you soon. Thanks very much for that, Ron. Great.
Thank you, Brian. Thank you.
Okay, and we're back here on the Rotary Show. I'm Brian Boyd, and you're listening to the Rotary Show on Saturday afternoon. And I'm joined today by two great Rotarians, Mr. Ron Duxbury from the Rotary Club of Furness and Mike Lovell from the Rotary Club of Barrow. How are you doing, fellas?
Yeah, great, thanks.
Yeah, very good. Thank you very much. Yeah, good to see you again, Brian.
And you, well done. We're talking all things sports. And as I said to Jeff Dandy earlier, when I know that we're not pole vaulting and playing rugby sevens, but we do have sports. And I want to come to Ron first from the Rotary Club of Furness. Tell me something about your involvement with the sports, Ron.
I'm the sports officer at Rotary Club of Furness. I think I was shoehorned into it, really, as we all are. And just a little bit that in our club, it also encompasses the district quiz. And just to give the background to the listener, that we have 68 clubs in Cumbria and Lancashire, and the sports and the quiz get them all together, or as many as want to enter these competitions, and just have a bit of fun while having a gentle knockout as well. The ones that Furness go in for are 10-pin bowling, where we beat Furness Peninsula in the first round. We do the grey games, what we call the grey games, which are probably pub games, darts and dominoes, etc. Table tennis, we don't go in for that because Barrow always win that one. Snooker is another one that, we can go in for. And bowls, whether it be carpet bowling or crown green bowling. And really, we ask our members each year what they want to be involved in.
Yeah, and that's great. And I'm glad that you said all that because I couldn't remember most of them, so you filled me in. Mike, yourself from the Rotary Club of Barrow, same thing, really. What's your involvement? Are you, Ron, are you part of the team or are you one of the leaders?
Yes, I'm currently the sports officer of the Barrow Rotary Club. Just to give you a bit of up-to-date, sadly, over the past couple of years, obviously our sporting activities have taken a back seat. But hopefully we can get back to some serious competition soon. As Ron has said, our sporting fixtures against other Rotary clubs are within our district, which is Cumbria and North Lancashire. We like to take part in crown green bowling, 10-pin bowling, and as Ron said, table tennis, which I might add, we in the Barrow Club are particularly good at this.
In fact, two very good players.
In fact, we reached the district final twice in recent years.
Oh, well done.
But I'm afraid we came second each time.
Oh, well, that's at least you were there. You came second. If you weren't good enough, you wouldn't have got second there. But I can sense a little bit of rivalry there between the two clubs. I think it's great to see that. I'm going to be back with these two fellas shortly. But before that, I think that I feel the need for a little bit of George Michael, don't you? Here he is, George Michael. What a great piece of music that is. You can't whack George Michael. I love it. Right, Mike, we can come back to you again. This is Mike from the Rotary Club of Barrow. These games, you seem to have quite a lot of them. I mean, do you do these on a monthly basis, weekly, annually? You seem to pack quite a lot in. How often do you do that?
Well, it's obviously divided into summer and winter sessions. We get fixtures supplied to us by the district sports officer, and we then play against our local teams. It's in regions to start with within our district. And then if we win that sort of regional competition, then we go forward to the main district. But the winter games, as we're now calling them, are fast approaching. And we then move indoors, being winter games. And we take over a local hostelry, which is always rather pleasant. And we play darts or pool or snooker and dominoes, carpet bowls, carpet putting, etc., etc. But I must add now, it's a great shame we don't play rugby league, having thought about it, because we have an ex-Great Britain player in our club.
Really?
I wasn't going to name him, but in his playing days, he was known as Alf Hadley.
Right.
Everybody knows Alf Hadley.
Yeah, I'm glad you didn't mention his name. I'm sure he'd be delighted. Thanks, Mike. Now, Ron, there's a lot of sports there, and I'm glad that Mike separated it into winter and summer. But I mean, what about yourself? Is it as often as Mike says? Do your clubs split it into two, or how do you manage it?
Yeah, I think it's very much the same as Mike has said, and I think probably most clubs do the same. We do canvass each member really to see if they want to be involved, because in Rotary we do get new members in, of course, on a regular basis, and it could be that those new members might be particularly good at one of the sports that we do. So things can change from year to year, and I know in the Furness Club this year we have got a particularly good 10-pin bowler with us, so we try to organise it so that he can play on the nights that we have the matches.
And why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you? I'm sure that he's aware of that, and professional sports people are difficult to find, and if you've got one, get him in there, or her, by the way. Okay, right. I'm going to come back to these fellas just after some more music, because I want to know about spectators, and because it's not a closed shop, isn't Rotary? It's an open shop. We are open for business, and I just want to find out something about spectators. So stay with me, Brian Boyd, Cando FM. I'll be back in a minute. Okay, before that, I said I'd be back in a minute, and here I am. And these two fine fellows, Ron Duxbury from the Rotary Club of Furness. We've had Jeff Dandy from the Rotary Club of Furness Peninsula, and we've got Mike Lovell from the Rotary Club of Barrow. I just want to ask these fellas, they're talking all things sports and, carpet balls and darts and all the rest of it. Do you do this for the entertainment of the general public? How would I get involved if I thought, I like the idea of this, I'll go along and watch? What would I do?
Well, I think, first of all, you get in touch with somebody in Rotary, and probably that's more difficult than it sounds, because how do you know if somebody's in Rotary? But you do know, because they wear a Rotary pin and all the rest of it. But you will normally be asked, I would think, by somebody in the Rotary Club, hey, are you interested in carpet bowling or tenpin bowling, whatever? But the other thing is, you will get the members of the public or friends will get invited along to these events, because very much so nowadays, the people who are not Rotarians are invited along to watch, to take part, because we haven't really mentioned that these sports are a great deal of fun. And that's what it's all about. It's about getting the three clubs in the Barrow area together, having a bit of a knockabout, a bit of fun, friendly rival banter, and so on. And we get people involved in that. And we find as well, and we hope as well, that anybody that's not a Rotarian that comes along, we can perhaps encourage them, perhaps not to join straight away, but to come to one of our meetings. Come to a meeting for each of the three clubs, if you like, and see which one you like the best.
Absolutely great. Mike is a member of one of those clubs. Is that the same with your club, Mike? How would that work with yours?
Absolutely agree with everything Ron has said. I was invited along initially by a pal of mine, and straight away, thinking about other members of the public coming along, as I did, I was impressed straight away by the humour of the club, and also the great camaraderie which was displayed thoroughly between all the members. And Brian, in this life, it's too easy to sit back and take.
Yeah.
Whereas Rotary ethos is to give something back to the community, and that's what drew me in. And hopefully, I can pass that on to a prospective member.
Yeah.
And then of course the whole story opens up once they're with us.
Yeah. Thanks a lot for that, Mike. Yeah, and I think the thing that got me about that was when you said earlier about your carpet balls or your carpet golf or whatever it is. I couldn't imagine walking into a club or a hostelry, as you put it, and see people playing golf on the carpet, and I couldn't resist asking why. So it does expose Rotary to a wider audience by definition, and that's a great thing. Back shortly with these guys for their final thoughts straight after this. Okay, welcome back. You're listening to Brian Boyd on Cando FM 106.3 in Barrow, 107.3 and beyond. And I'm joined by three great guys today. I've had Jeff Dandy in. I'm currently joined by Ron Duxbury and Mike Lovell. And they've been talking about Rotary and the way in which they manage sports. And as we said earlier, not pole vaulting, but genteel sports and more regulated sports, which are a lot easier, certainly for me. Final thoughts, if I can come to Ron first, please. What are your final thoughts on that?
I think my final thoughts, Brian, are that not just the sport, but widening it out. And I think Mike touched on it before. People getting together, we have a friendly banter, etc. But we've got three clubs in this area, as I mentioned before, and we're all working together now on a particular project, which is very important. And that is giving people and helping people to have their jabs. We don't actually give the jabs, but, we've got people who will put them in the right direction and point them in the right direction and make sure that nothing goes wrong. So I believe that over 70,000 of these of these have been done, but it's just one of those things. I think that Rotary in this area, and the effort that's going into the. I'm sorry about this.
You're all right. No, it's okay. I think I know what you're saying, Ron. It's the amount of effort going back into the community from a team of people who are willing to put themselves out a little bit. Mike, your final thoughts on sports and Rotary in general?
Yes, touching on the community, facing community again, we try to involve that kind of approach by sponsoring golf tournament and Cran Green bowling in the summer, and that's where we get all the local golfers in, and we obviously get it well attended, and it's supported very generously by many local businesses and individuals, and it's always a great success. And it's that community facing project that we like to do, and you never know, we start talking to people and they profess an interest in what is this Rotary, what's going on here, and we run the Cran Green bowling event along similar lines as well. Good. And basically we never lose sight of what we do back in our club, which is where the stock Rotary phrase comes in: service above self, and that's the community facing ethos.
Good. And that's great. And you know what? Service above self, that sounds a bit tween for some people, but it actually does mean something quite significant. Right. Thanks very much for your time today, fellas. Ron Duxbury and Mike Lovell. He did say that he never loses sight there. I almost thought he was going to say he never loses a game. But obviously that wasn't the case. Thanks very much for your time today, fellas. It's been a pleasure, as always, talking to you. And I'm going to tell you how you can get involved in this straight after this little piece of great music.